Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Santa Barbara County Planning Commission meeting of the 28th of September. Would you all please join me in the flag salute? Right back here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Villalobos, thank you for being here as always. Will you get us started, calling the roll and the TV coverage announcement?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Planning Commission hearings are televised live on County and Santa Barbara Television, CSB TV Channel 20 at 9 a.m. in the South Coast, Lompoc, San Ynez Valley, San Maria, and Orca areas. Planning Commission hearings rebroadcasts of Planning Commission hearings are on Fridays after 5 p.m. on CSB TV Channel 20. Today's hearing will also be streamed live on the county's website and will be available for download in a day or two. Moving on to the roll call, Commissioner Bradley.
Here.
Commissioner Farini.
Here.
And Chair Cooney.
Here.
And for the record, Commissioner Martinez will be absent today, and I believe Commissioner Park is just running a couple minutes late.
Thank you very much, Mr. Villalobos. I understand Mr. Wilson is also absent today on other business, and we're going to have a substitute secretary. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Thank you. So for today's agenda status, there's 3 items listed on today's agenda. The first is the Buell Flat Rock Company Deep Mining Reclamation Plan, which you've already heard once conceptually. We also have the Beller appeal of the Sedaris detached garage. And third, listed on the agenda is the appeal of the Old College Ranch Inc. cannabis cultivation land use permit. That last item, my understanding is that the appellant and the applicant are trying to work out some of the appeal issues and have requested that that item be dropped from today's agenda, and that request is supported by staff. The other 2 items are ready to go forward.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Zorovich. So we can take those up when we finish our administrative agenda. Do you have a projection report, Mr. Zorovich?
I do, sir. Thank you. So next week on October 5th, we have the Concerned Carpentry appeal at 3450 Via Real Cannabis Cultivation Project. And then the next hearing is scheduled for October 12th. And there's 2 items: reconsider the circumstances of the COVID state of emergency, and also a conditional use permit for the Teixeira Outdoor Cannabis Cultivation Project. And then going forward on October 26th, there is the Keysite 17 Senior Housing Project, which will be considered on the 25th. It's a special hearing, I guess. Yes. And then the next hearing after that is November 2nd, Highway 101 widening, zoning ordinance amendment package, and disadvantaged unincorporated community amendment to the land use element to the comprehensive plan. That'll be presented by Long Range Planning on November 2nd. November 9th, Garrity appeal and garage conversion, and the Kono Fukushima lot line adjustment project also on November 9th. And then going out a little bit further, on December 14th, you have the Highway 101 widening segment 4D. And that concludes the projection report.
Any questions from the commission of Mr. Zorovich's projection report? One thing I noticed, Mr. Zorovich, is that the October 12 meeting, October 5, let's see, Santa Barbara, okay, that's right. The October 12 meeting will be in Santa Maria. Is that right?
Mr. Chair, that's correct.
And we're starting at 10 a.m. rather than 9.
Yes, it's starting 1 hour later, at 10.
Okay. They change the time start for us, and it shakes us up a little bit, so I wanted to be sure.
Well, maybe it works because we go off daylight savings time, I don't know.
Okay. Okay, well, some of us will be here. Great. So the next matter is the public comment opportunity, which offers to the public the opportunity to address the Planning Commission on matters generally of significance to the Planning Commission, but not on today's agenda. So, Mr. Villalobos, I'll turn to you. Do you have any indication that there are public speakers today?
Mr. Chair, thank you. We don't have anyone signed up on Zoom, and I have not received any physical speaker slips for public comment today.
Okay. And I trust that everyone in the audience is here for a specific matter, not just for general public comment. Okay. So we'll close the public comment and move to Planning Commissioner informational reports. Anything from the north? And doesn't look like we have any today, so we can scoot along to the director's report. Who will be giving that today, the director or Mr. Zorovich?
I think this morning it'll be the director, Lisa Plowman.
Okay, fantastic. Ms. Plowman? Up here she is. Find her a microphone.
We could do the minutes while we wait.
Oh, I skipped them. Right. Okay.
So,
Yeah. We also have two sets of minutes that we can go over while Ms. Plowman's getting set up. So let's look at the minutes of the 7th of September 1st. Any changes? Commissioner Farini.
After the review committee gets through with checks, I move for approval.
Great. I did see on page 2 in the action under item 1, it talks about in the first paragraph the staff memorandum and September 6, 2022. I think we need to reflect in the second paragraph that the item was dropped from the agenda, rather than just acknowledging that the request was there to drop it.
Mr. Chair, I believe that this is actually this is the motion that the commission adopted at the hearing. So comes off of that staff memorandum.
Okay. What about looking at paragraph or item number 2 there in the first line? I was caught several times during the Santa Claus project spelling clause with an E, and there it is in the minutes. I was so glad to see it, Mr. Villalobos. So we correct that, and we're back to Commissioner Farini's motion to approve subject to minor modifications. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed, abstentions, 3 votes in favor. So the second set of minutes is for September 14th. These are very short. Any corrections? I didn't see any. So we have a motion to approve, Commissioner Farini,
Move for approval.
and a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, the minutes of the 14th are approved as submitted. Now, Ms. Plowman, welcome to our meeting in person. Glad to see you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Nice to see you all in person as well. Again, I have kind of a short director's report. They've been a little bit short these days. I did want to let you know that, I know Commissioner Farini is particularly interested in this. The house cell map was continued was it last Tuesday? Yes, last Tuesday, thank you, at the Board of Supervisors to 10/11. So October 11th, it'll be back before them. We're hoping they have the materials that they need. If they don't, we'll just withdraw it from the agenda, and then we will let them get themselves set up, and then we can bring it back to the board when they're ready. I did want to let the Planning Commission know, and perhaps Mr. Villalobos has already done so, is the governor signed a bill that amends the Brown Act, Bill 2449. And so we're currently working with county council, reviewing it, and we'll be giving information to the commission on what that actually means for the operations of the commission. But it does relate to teleworking and the options, not teleworking, I'm sorry, having tele-meetings, right? Teleconference meetings, and under what circumstances. So it provides some additional provisions for those things so that when the emergency is declared over, we will have some ability, but we're still working out the details on that. And then in terms of future board items, we have the Valley Crest appeal next Tuesday. And then we have on November 1st, 2 items, the Nahui Farms appeal and the Roots Retail appeal. And then we have the child care ordinance amendments that have not yet been to the Planning Commission, but will be at the board on 11/29. And then those amendments will go to the board in December. I
Okay.
think that concludes my report today. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from
Yeah,
commissioners?
so I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, the childcare ordinance, is that on the projection report, or is it? I mean, you're thinking about bringing it to us
Commissioner
before
Bridley through the chair. It should be on the projection report. I don't have that in front. Oh, here it is. I have it right.
Maybe it's bundled in another long-range planning thing.
I think it's November 2nd.
November 2nd, okay.
It's bundled.
Yep, yep. Yes, it's not called out as the child care. I mean, it is primarily to streamline child care permitting requirements, but we do have a couple of other little cleanup items that have been included in it, but that is the primary topic of that package. Yeah.
Well,
Let's just pause 1 minute to welcome. Commissioner Park, welcome. We were just at the end of our administrative agenda, and I asked if there were any questions of Director Plowman, who just gave us a brief summary of what's coming up on the Board of Supervisors and so forth. Do you have anything that you would like to contribute in the way of information or otherwise?
I just have a question, and I'm sure it wasn't on the projection report, but last year we missed our Christmas luncheon, and I just think we need to get that on the projection report somehow. Isn't that a dramatic entrance?
Oop, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Park, I think that's an excellent idea, and we will work on that.
See, you've only been here 30 seconds, and you've already made a major contribution. Thank you. Very good, Commissioner Park.
Only if
Okay.
he wears a bow tie to the party will I schedule it. You can wear shorts, but bow tie.
Well, I can tell that's an exciting event. So, Ms. Plowman, thank you for coming and sharing with us. So, unless anyone has anything else to add before we move to our standard agenda, I think we're ready to go. Let's take up let's see, the appeal of the Old College Ranch Cannabis Cultivation Land Use Permit. That is item 3 on today's agenda. Are we ready to read that into the record? Okay.
The following is a hearing on the request of the appellants, San Ynez Valley Equestrian Association and Refugio Farm LLC to consider case numbers 21 APL 73 and 21 APL 74. Appeals of the planning director's approval of land use permit case number 20 LUP 286.
Thank you, Mr. Villalobos. Commissioners, do any of you have ex parte disclosures on this matter? Nothing. Okay, great. So we had an indication at the outset that there was a request to remove this from the agenda, and who will present that? Mr. Dargo.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Yes, you should have seen the Planning Commission memo that was distributed out to, I think, the group last week. The applicant has requested that the item be continued to a date indefinite, which would be dropped from the agenda. Apparently, they're working with the appellants to potentially resolve this matter without the need for being heard by this commission. So staff supports that request, and we're available for any questions that you may have.
Is staff's recommendation that we simply drop the matter from the agenda as opposed to setting any future date?
That is correct. Our recommendation is to drop the item from the agenda.
Okay. Questions of Mr. Dargo by staff? Is there anyone from the public that would like to address this matter before the commission, before we take action? Doesn't look like the parties are interested in anything additional. So this is a 3rd district item.
So do we need a motion to drop it?
I believe we do, yes.
Then I move to drop this project from the agenda.
And second by
Second.
Commissioner Farini. Any further discussion? All right, let's have a roll call on this one, Mr. Villalobos.
Commissioner Bradley,
Aye.
Commissioner Park,
Aye.
Commissioner Farini,
Aye.
Chair Cooney.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. The next item we'll take up is the Buell Flat Rock Company Deep Mining Reclamation Plan. And if you'll read that into the record.
Happy to do so.
Villalobos.
The following is a hearing on the hearing to consider case number 18 RVP 6 for the Buell Flat Rock Company Deep Mining and Reclamation Plan. To consider making the required findings for approval and to adopt the mitigated negative declaration 21 NGD 3 and approve the project case number 18 RVP 6.
So let me get that. Any ex parte communications for disclosure by commissioners? Not seeing any. We've seen this project, though. Mr. Briggs, are you going to present on this?
Not quite. So good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. You have seen this item twice. Once originally, you asked staff to come back with some minor changes to the findings, and you also asked the applicant to make a few minor changes to the project. That was completed, and we came back a second time. Your commission conceptually approved the item a couple of months ago, and now that the reclamation plan has been reviewed and approved by the State Department of Mine and Reclamation, we're back for final approval. So Jacqueline Ibarra is the planner on the project, and she's going to give you a brief presentation this morning, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Briggs.
Jax, are you there?
I am. Good morning, commissioners. Happy to kick us off today. Mr. Villalobos, do we have the presentation up? Perfect. Okay, as Mr. Briggs said, we're back for final action on the Buell Flat Rock Company's Deep Mining Reclamation Plan, which is an existing sand and gravel mine adjacent to Solvang. Next slide. So to show the commission and the public, once again, this presents the property looking northeast. The project is outlined in red on the figure here, and it's a previously mined area on the western side of the larger Buell Flat property. Next slide. As Mr. Briggs stated, the commission conceptually approved the project in late July, and staff submitted the final project to the Department of Conservation's Division of Mine Reclamation, DMR, who are required to review reclamation projects and provide any comments or concerns within 30 days. We submitted to the project to DMR on August 12th, and they responded that they would have no further comments on the project. They did look at it in the draft phase, had some comments that the applicant fixed, and those were all fixed by the time your commission saw it in July. Next slide. So as such, no further changes to the reclamation plan or conditions of approval were made since the last commission meeting. The only change that staff revised is the findings to account for DMR's final review, but that language didn't change or didn't have any material changes. Next slide, please. So in short conclusion, staff recommends that the commission make the required findings as outlined in attachment A to your most current staff memo, adopt the mitigated negative declaration and the conditions of approval, and those are included as attachments C and B, and approve the project. Next slide. That concludes my short presentation for this morning. The applicant's agent is here for questions, and staff is available as needed as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ibarra. Certainly is a short presentation compared to other similar matters involving the Department of Conservation. So we'll see if there is anything the commissioners have to question you about to begin with. Don't see, well, it is Commissioner Park has his light on. Let's go.
Yeah, this is a question for either Ms. Ibarra or Mr. Briggs. And after I ask this, you're going to say, God, Commissioner Park sure is a confused individual. But I'm actually asking this not for my sake, but for the sake of public that have commented on this project. I took a look at the internet file this morning just to see if there's anything I'd missed. And I saw some public comment in there. One was an email and one was a letter, and the letter referred to a petition signed by a couple hundred people. And I don't know if that petition preceded our last hearing or is new. I didn't notice that. And it struck me that these folks weren't really aware of where we are in the process. And as I understood the process, we addressed this project on its merits twice, as Mr. Briggs referred to, and then we sent it up to DMR. And our sole purpose today really is, unless somebody had just a great change of mind, is to review whatever comments were made by DMR and adjust our findings and our approval to that. And of course, we had no comments whatsoever from DMR, so it seems pretty simple. But I wonder if either you, Mr. Briggs, or Ms. Ibarra would kind of elaborate on what our role is today on this project and why we're not necessarily addressing public comment on the merits.
Yes, Commissioner Park, through the chair, I would give this one to Aaron to try to address your question.
It's a good Aaron question. I've learned this over the years.
That's fine. I enjoy my mic time in front of the commission. So,
Mr. Briggs.
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Park, you characterized that very well. And I don't have a lot to add to what you said, except for your last statement, where I would say, we did receive a few new public comments in between the prior hearing and today, and staff has reviewed those two letters, and the issues that have been brought about in those letters are similar, if not identical, to those that we hashed out in the prior two meetings. So, in our review, we didn't catch anything new in there, but certainly your commission has the jurisdiction to discuss the letters, ask for public comment, ask staff questions about the issues that are brought up in those letters. So,
Well, I think that you made the same point that I was trying to make, that today, even though we're kind of moving through this rapidly and addressing the DMR lack of comments, it doesn't mean we're ignoring the public or ignoring public comments. We simply addressed things on the merits at length a few months ago, and now is not the time to be doing it. It doesn't mean we're not listening just because it's not referred to by me or staff in the hearing today. So thanks, Mr. Briggs.
See no more comments from commissioners, so I would invite the applicant's representative to address the commission on the project. Who is here for the applicant? Maybe.
Good morning, everybody. I'm here, Helen Aloyne, on behalf of CESP Consulting. I believe John Hecht is an attendee for this hearing as well. We did make a number of changes to bring the reclamation plan into alignment with our environmental document, and included some of the changes we discussed previously, like the earthen berm and noticing requirements for any noise complaints for the site. We also made some changes to clarify the vegetation and habitat on site as well. So the document we provided should be in completely alignment with the mitigated negative declaration at this time.
Okay.
Thank you, Helen, and Chair and members of the commission. John Hecht had a little bit of trouble getting on, so it took me a second. But Helen covered things pretty well. We appreciate your consideration. We appreciate staff's hard work, and we're confident that the reclamation plan that went up to Division of Mine Reclamation meets the requirements of the county and the state. And we're here for any questions and ask for your support today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Heck. Mr. Villalobos, do we have any members of the public desiring to speak on this item?
Mr. Chair, I've received no requests to speak either on Zoom or for members of the audience in the hearing room.
All right, if that's correct, we do not have any public speakers on this item. Then we will close the public comment period. Come back to Ms. Ibarra for any final comments. Mr. Briggs? Nothing?
Mr. Chair, I have no further comments.
All right, and let's see, I saw your recommendations. So back to you, Commissioner Park. How would you like to proceed with the deliberations?
I'd like to make a motion, and on the recommendations are right there, right? Okay. So I move to make the required findings, adopt the MND and conditions of approval, and approve this project.
Second.
Commissioner Freeney seconds. Thank you very much. Further discussion among the commission? Mr. Bridley, no. We had a very good look at the project a couple of months ago, and the only question was whether we would receive comments from the State Mining Conservation Division, and did not. So I think we're ready to vote. Is that correct, Commissioner Park? Anything further? No. Okay. Let's call a roll.
Commissioner Bridley,
Aye.
Commissioner Park,
Aye.
Commissioner Farini,
Aye.
Chair Cooney.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right, thank you very much. Are we ready to keep going, or do you want to take a few-minute break just to set up? All right. We'll take a 10-minute break here and be back at 20 minutes to 10.
back on there. Mr. Chair, we're back on the air whenever you're ready to start the next item.
We are back on the record. This is the Santa Barbara County Planning Commission meeting of the 28th of September. We have one item left on our agenda, so let's read item 2 into the record. Mr. Villalobos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The following is a hearing on the request of the appellant Janine Beller, et cetera, to consider case number 22 APL 9, an appeal of the planning director's approval of case number 22 LUP 28.
Commissioners, any disclosures regarding communications about this matter? Commissioner Park.
Well, I had a lot of ex-parte contacts, and it will probably take longer to discuss those than to actually deal with the project, and that's a good thing, as you'll learn. I went over and visited with the Sederises. That's Jordan and Danielle, who are sitting here, and walked their property and looked at why he wants to build this garage, which makes a lot of sense, I think, given their interests, and how it's situated and so forth. And that was good to just get a feel for the land there. I later visited the Bellers and looked at it all from their side, and that was equally productive. One thing I learned was that the view of the building that would affect them the most wasn't the side that's along the border between the two properties. It would be the end that they would see from one part of their property. So you don't learn those things until you go out and look at it in a kind of a 3D experience. Then we had multiple conversations over the telephone with both sides. It took another couple of hours, and I believe the parties have reached a settlement. That's why I said that my ex-parte disclosures will take longer than addressing the project, assuming we all like their settlement. And I can address that later, but I think let's let the parties speak to what their deal is.
Anything else from other commissioners? I did just do a drive-by. I was on another site visit in Santa Maria and drove by the property to see it on the ground. Having been on Stadium Way many times for baseball games, I was familiar with the neighborhood, but it was important to see the specific setup of Jason Way, which I did. So with that, let's move to staff, and Tina Mitchell is our staff planner. Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, good morning. I'm here, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. And we should have a PowerPoint coming up in just a second. There we go. So this case is a request by appellants Janine and Kevin Beller to consider an appeal of the Sedaris land use permit, which approved a new 5,000 square foot detached garage in the Santinez area. This appeal was last heard by your commission on July 27, 2022. Next slide. Real quickly, here's a vicinity map of the site. It's a 0.89 acre parcel located off of Jason Way, north of Stadium Drive and Santinez High School, and the parcel is zoned 1E1. Next slide. As I mentioned before, the appeal was last considered by the commission on July 27th. Based on testimony from the applicant and the appellant, commissioners voted to continue the item to today's hearing in order to allow the commissioners to perform site visits. Next slide, please. In late August, the applicant submitted revised plans for the garage with 2 key changes. Previously, the garage height was 26 feet and 3 inches, and the height was reduced by 4 feet to 22 feet and 3 inches. Additionally, the site plan submitted in August noted that drought-tolerant landscaping is proposed behind the garage along the southern property line. These changes were captured in the staff memo and attachments for today's hearing. And then this morning, your commission was provided with a new set of plans that shows some additional changes. And if we could go to the next slide, please. Okay. It looks like this may be the wrong slide here, but I can kind of describe the changes to you. They're kind of shown in this. There was a further reduction of the garage height. So the roof peak will now be lowered to 21 feet and 5 inches. So that needs to be changed in this project description, which staff can do for you today. The other changes were that there are additional details regarding the proposed landscaping provided. So there's a specific species provided there. And then there are additional details about the location going along the western wall for landscaping. And then lastly, it's now specified that the garage will be painted dark green. So again, these changes would need to be added to the project description today. So we can provide a separate slide that kind of goes over those changes, exactly how they need to be added. So we can provide that for you. The next slide, please. There we go. As revised, the project continues to comply with all applicable policies of the comprehensive plan, the Santinas Valley Community Plan, and the LUDC, including the development standards for the E1 zone. Additionally, the revised project is exempt from CEQA because CEQA guidelines sections 15303 and 15304 apply. These sections apply to the construction of accessory structures, including garages and private alterations in the condition of land. And next slide. In conclusion, staff recommends that the commission deny the appeal, case number 22 APL-9, make the required findings for approval for the revised project, determine that the project is exempt from CEQA, and grant de novo approval of the revised project, subject to the conditions set forth in attachment 2 of the staff memo and as revised during today's hearing, if your commission decides to do so. That concludes staff's presentation. We're available for questions, and the applicant is there with you in person.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Any questions from commissioners? Ms. Mitchell, Commissioner Park.
Yes, thanks for having that revised slide. It's missing something that I believe the parties spoke about it at great length, and that was the sidewall height, which is actually more noticeable than the peak height. And they agreed to a reduction of the sidewall height from the 20 feet down to 18 feet, and I don't see that. But I'm wondering if that reduction is on the revised plans that were submitted.
Commissioner Park, through the chair, yes, the sidewall height has been lowered to 18 feet, I believe it was, and that is shown on the revised plans that you have this morning.
Okay, so we could put that in the revised project description as well, or the applicants could agree to that. Okay, thank you.
Speaking of the revised plans, they came in only this morning to the commission, and I believe, council, we should take action to admit the plans so that we can rely on them for the balance of the hearing. Do we have a motion to do so, Commissioner Park?
Yes, I'll make that motion, and I think it's important for everyone, including the commission, if we couldn't get this admitted in the record, and if we didn't have these plans, then we might be in the position of having to continue the matter, which would be sort of a waste of time. Or if we approved it without plans, we'd be in a position of asking the building department to try to look at plans and compare them to minutes for the meeting and project descriptions to sort out what they're supposed to be inspecting and requiring. So it's just better that the plans are here, they're admitted in the record, and I appreciate Mr. Sedaris' efforts to get his planner to get these done and get them in front of us. So that's my motion to admit these plans into our record.
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Bridley. Thank you both. I would just ask Ms. Mitchell if you've had a chance to look at these plans and confirm that they do correspond with what the changes being proposed have done.
Chair Cooney, yes, I have had the chance to look over the plans, and they are matching what was discussed by the applicant. And I see no issues. There's no inconsistencies with our development standards or policies.
One other formality is to make sure that the parties don't have comment on whether we should be accepting the plans for consideration today. Is there any comment from the public with regard to just the issue of whether the commission can admit the plans to the present record?
We don't have any hands up on Zoom. I'm not seeing any hands up in the hearing room either.
Okay, good. So I think we've,
One of the appellants has their hand up.
okay. We'll call on, is it Ms. Baylor? Ms. Baylor, are you able to connect with us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Good morning, everyone. My husband Kevin and I want to, first of all, thank Commissioner Park for facilitating communications regarding all of this. It was super helpful. And we just want to state that we agree to everything that's been listed this morning on the second revised plans that Tina Mitchell just went over. The one thing that we are wondering about, and we had discussed with Commissioner Park, is to make sure that the Sedaris's yard really is going to be clear and debris and everything. Because just because you build a building doesn't mean that everything's going to be put inside of it. So that was just one question that my husband and I had. And I'll unmute now unless anybody has a question for me.
Well, we appreciate your comment, and as it addresses any objection to the plans, it appears you do not have an objection to our accepting the plans just delivered today into the record. So we'll reserve your other questions until we get to the project itself.
Okay, thank
But
you.
Thank you for that. All right, it appears everything's been done to clear the way for a motion to admit. So if you'll read the roll, we'll vote on that one issue.
Commissioner Bradley,
Aye.
Commissioner Park,
Aye.
Commissioner Farini,
Aye.
Chair Cooney.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Great. Okay, so we now have, I think, the up-to-date information, Ms. Mitchell, and we can turn to the appellants for any additional comments in the introduction, although Ms. Baylor did a good job of the overall view, too. Anything to add, Ms. Baylor, before we turn to the applicants?
No, I don't have anything to add at this time, Commissioner or Chair Cooney. Thanks.
Okay. Ms. Baylor, can you still hear us? Do you have anything
Yeah.
to add at this point?
No, I don't. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. All right, let's see if the Sedarises have any comment on the project at this time. Do you want to address the commission about the project, Mr. Sedaris?
I don't have much more to add that hasn't already been covered by Commissioner Park, county staff, et cetera. We've revised the revision in order to make things work. And I mean, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer, but I don't think there's anything left to be said from my end.
There was just the one question Ms. Baylor mentioned about clearing sounded like brush and debris from the yard. Did you understand that to be the question?
Sure, there's no brush and debris. There's several vehicles, and the purpose of building this garage is to house them within the garage. So that's exactly why we're here.
Great. So once the garage is habitable, the vehicles will get moved in.
I wouldn't be spending all this money to leave the vehicles in the RV outside. So
Well,
that's
you
the
could
plan.
get more vehicles. I mean,
No, I
there's-
think we have plenty. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else waiting to speak from the public? Okay. Just to be clear on the record, Ms. Beller, you have the opportunity to respond to the comments by the applicant if you have any.
Yes, I just want to thank Mr. Sedaris and his wife and for making the adjustments that have been made. And when I said debris, I didn't mean brush and stuff. I just mean there's tires and all kinds of stuff back in the backyard. And I appreciate that he doesn't want to add to it. And he is doing this in good faith and trying to get things undercover. And we're good. We're fine with this.
Very good. All right, then, anything further from you, Mr. Sedaris? Nothing further. Okay. So we're back to staff. Ms. Mitchell, do you have anything to add with regard to the recommendations? You indicated that you had a slide, and it appears we have it on the screen right now. Recommended actions. Any comment about those?
Chair Cooney, I don't have any further comments available for any questions.
Any questions of staff before we vote? Commissioner Park.
Yeah, I have one. I noticed that the revised project description that we last saw, the print's a little small for me, but I don't think I see any reference to the reduction in the sidewall height. But on the other hand, the reduction in the sidewall height is absolutely shown on the plans that are submitted that we just approved for submittal. So is it really worth concerning ourselves about seeing that reduction in the sidewall height is included in the revised project description, or is it already incorporated by reference in the plans that have been submitted?
Commissioner Park, through the chair, I would say it's fine that it's incorporated through reference through the plans. Typically in our project descriptions, we just kind of state the maximum height for informational purposes, and then any other measurements, we would just refer to the plans. So if that's okay with your commission, it's okay with us, but we can also make that revision if you feel it's necessary.
Well, I don't. I mean, you've prepared this, it's there, we've got the plans, there's nothing more clear than them, so I think we've got what we need. I wanted to just briefly address that point that was made by Ms. Beller about clearing the Sedaris' lot. I understand the concern, and after walking both properties, I kind of get a feel for the properties. One good thing about this approval that will occur in this building, in this settlement, is to just get this behind everyone, because I think that the Bellers are excited about doing more landscaping in their back property, but they wanted to do that only after they saw what this building was going to be. And we've referred to Mr. Sedaris' interest in housing his equipment, but he's co-owner of the property with Danielle, and she's very interested in getting his car stuff out of the garage so she can have her potter's wheel in there. And she's also extremely interested in landscaping their yard. And so I'm really pretty confident that things will get cleaned up back there and they'll wind up in the garage and you come by and look at these properties in a couple of years, you'll find that both of them are really improved.
Thank you. Commissioner Park, before we deliberate, I just wanted to indicate that this is a very good example of what can be done when the parties to a dispute are open to resolving it among themselves rather than having the commission or some other body impose it on them. And I have high hopes that the agreement will pay benefits throughout the future for all parties in the community. Okay, if there's nothing further from staff, Commissioner Park, we're ready for a motion.
Okay. Then I will move that we deny the appeal and we make the required findings for approval of the revised project as specified in the attachments to the staff report, and including the any references to the plans that were submitted and into the record today, to determine the project is exempt from CEQA and to grant de novo approval of the revised project as stated in the revised project description and the revised plans.
We're getting a nod in favor of the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Commissioner Farini seconds. Thank you very much. Any further discussion from commissioners? Very good job. Okay, let's vote. Mr. Villalobos.
Commissioner Bradley.
Aye.
Commissioner Park.
Aye?
Commissioner Farini.
Aye.
Chair Cooney.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Very good. Thank you all for coming down and for all you've done to reach this resolution. We have no further business, I don't believe, today. We appreciate you coming to our meeting, Mr. Zorovich, and you're welcome anytime to sit in. They can all be as short as this one. We welcome you. All right. Meeting adjourned. We will look for everybody in Santa Barbara on the 5th next week.